Being sick is just no fun. Fun is the last thing you can usually have while illness courses through your veins. You might be sneezing constantly, feel like a jackhammer is pounding away in your head, or your stomach may think that you're on some sort of rolling, rollicking sea cruise because it's so nauseous, or you could experience strange, stabbing pain that makes it nearly impossible to relax. Whatever malady afflicts you, taking solace in traditional media can be bothersome or impossible. They are, after all, passive activities. Reading, and especially watching TV, can be not stimulating enough an activity to distract from the illness, while you wait to fall asleep or for medicine to kick in. Video games, on the other hand, require more engagement from you, but also cause more distraction. Interactive media will always be better at seizing your attention, and thus pulling you away from pain or discomfort because you have to do some work to experience it. But not every game is any good for being sick. Many are visually complex and can induce further head pain or nausea. Quite a few are so complicated they take more thinking than a sickie can stand, or are about such gruesome subject matter it can be too irritating to watch. But plenty of video games are excellent choices for a sick person. They combine constant engagement to keep you stimulated with a soothing atmosphere to relax you, and pleasing visuals to take your mind off the painful, often gross, or putrid nitty-gritty of being ill. This is by no means a definitive list, this is just a bunch of games that I've found help me while I've been very sick and completely miserable, and I hope they can help others who hear about them. So without further ado, these are the top 5 games to play when I'm sick. The Atari 2600 was not the first video game console released, but it was the one that caused the explosion of the console market in the late 70s and early 80s. The system could only handle the most primitive of games that held very little data on each cartridge. Yet the system produced some surprising variety of games over the years, including early RPGs, horror games, platformers, and of course the ever-present space shooter. Most of the games have a pick-up-and-play quality. Not all of them, though, like the famously obtuse E.T., so you don't need to think about them too hard. The controls also tend to be instantly simple because it's just one button and a joystick. The music is very, very primitive, but that's something that appeals to me. The simpler it is, the easier it is to enjoy when fatigued and foggy-brained. And mostly it's just relaxing silence. Empty rooms with tiny electronic boops, nothing too distracting. Almost any Atari 2600 game fits brilliantly into a sick day. You'll be engaged with addictive, simplistic gameplay and bare-bones audio and graphics that won't overwhelm your senses. It's a perfect way to kill several hours of sick time that would otherwise be pretty horrid. So if you're ever sick, you may want to pop in a cartridge to the old Atari and spend some time back in the simpler days of the late 1970s. It's very relaxing. Point-and-click adventure games. This genre was once a ubiquitous part of the gaming landscape in the 1980s and 90s. The genre counts amongst it some of the best games ever made, especially with the best stories. Partially because the style of an adventure game is to tell an interactive story, plot lines, characters, and worlds were more complex, fleshed out, and mature than in other genres. The earliest adventure games made are very simple affairs that are calming, fun, and engaging without being overly taxing for a weakened person. Until LucasArts threw their hats in the ring with such masterpieces as The Secret of Monkey Island, Sierra, makers of King's Quest and Space Quest, were the undisputed leaders in the genre. The games involve exploring a strange fantasy or science fiction world, picking up seemingly random objects, and finding where to use those objects to get to the next part of the story. The puzzles in these games are occasionally very difficult and confusing, but I don't find them frustrating, especially with online walkthroughs nowadays. It's not like it was back then where you were totally on your own. Figuring out where to use a hammer, or how to get through a locked door guarded by a troll, or how to destroy a witch by pushing her into an oven, provides just enough stimulation to distract from illness. The earliest Sierra games have simple, bright-colored graphics that don't offend the eye even if you have a severe headache. This may be weird for younger gamers, but I actually love the sound of these old games. In other words, the sound of silence. The game barely produces any noise at all, and when it does, it's simplistic and not hard on the ears. Unlike the swelling, full orchestral madness booming out of many modern games. You only hear a few beeps and boops. Beautiful. The simplicity is its genius, and it helps to really calm you down when there's no music in the background constantly moving you forward with the story. The simplicity is its genius. So the next time you feel terrible, lay back, put the keyboard on your lap, and enjoy adventuring in pixel heaven. And if you feel especially bad, you can tell yourself that at least I'm not Roger Wilco and getting killed, smashed, crushed, eaten, disintegrated, and killed in hundreds of horrible ways. Minecraft is one of the most relaxing games I've ever come across. It's a bit hard to classify into a set genre. In Minecraft, you wander around a pleasant landscape made up of nothing but blocks that you can mine to gain resources. With those resources, you can craft weapons, armor, magic items, or build fantastic structures from a simple log cabin to an elaborate castle. Your imagination is the game, and it's up for you to find stuff to do, things to build, and places to explore. You can be a miner, a hard-working farmer, or maybe just a construction worker. Or maybe you can be really obnoxious to all the villagers and let them get themselves blown up. The game places no limits, no deadlines, and no demands on the character, leaving you a free agent to create everything around you. The old-fashioned block style of Minecraft looks absolutely amazing, and it's perfectly simplistic. Graphics have evolved over the years, but in many ways they've lost something. That simplicity of the early days is captured perfectly in Minecraft, which, even though it was made a few years ago, actually looks like it could have been made in one of the earliest days of gaming. It's bright, simplistic, easy to look at, and not going to make you any more sick just by watching some sort of horrifying cutscene that leaves you with motion sickness. The game places no limits, no deadlines, and no demands on the character, leaving you a free agent to create everything around you. For a sick person, wandering around a Minecraft map is simultaneously soothing and engaging. There's always going to be something there to do. At any given second, you can immediately start mining and gain something. It's always there to take your mind off your condition if you need it. Since there is no story and thus no victory, you will never have to stop playing. The constant distraction the game provides with mining, crafting, and building can really take your mind off any pain you might be in. The relaxing ambient musical score is also a great help in a general feeling of calm and relaxation. Whiling away the hours mining stone, building roads, trading for goods, and almost anything you can imagine is a great way to forget the heaving, retching, throbbing, stabbing misery of some illnesses. If you're playing on survival mode, you will have enemies to run across here and there that can raise frustration or anger, but most of the time the game provides an infinity of things to take your mind off pain in an anodyne world of comfort and simplicity. SimCity is a classic video game series that has spawned a legion of amazing sequels and spin-offs over the past 25 years. But the game that started it all was first released back in 1989. The game is a city-building simulator where you take on the role of the godlike, nearly immortal, and definitely unimpeachable mayor of a bustling young metropolis. As the mayor, or really the all-powerful overlord of the town, you divide land into residential, commercial, and industrial districts, build schools, police stations, and hospitals, and generally become the unaccountable god emperor of your little sim citizens. Part of the greatness of this game is that you really just push something into motion and then watch it happen. You're not as actively involved in what's going on. You set the parameters and watch your little guys go to work. It's partially visual and partially interactive. You're on top of everything, experiencing the world around you, pushing people to go do things, and then you can see what they're going to do and how they're going to react to your stimulus. The game is helpful for a sick person because of the calming and fairly slow pace that the game can be played at. At the lowest speed setting, the game is a soothing process of exerting minimal force over the world and watching your budding town become a giant megalopolis. The controls are not overly complicated and can be understood and followed with ease, even if you're in pain or feel weak. The version on the Super Nintendo is inferior to the DOS game, but on the SNES you can play with a controller, and as I personally experienced, can lean back in a chair instead of painfully hunching over a computer screen. Plus, the SNES version has beautiful, soothing music. The game in some ways plays itself as you gently guide the city in one direction, then watch your townsfolk react to your changes. At its best, SimCity is a soothing, peaceful world that you can direct and watch without a lot of trying, difficult input. Or if you're feeling especially terrible that day, you can transform your city into a pathetic, crime-infested, fiery ruin and say, "At least I'm not suffering as much as the poor citizens of Michaelburg." Ah, Pokemon. I can remember the first time I got my hands on this wonderful little treasure all the way back in 1998. Since then, the series has spun off into a huge number of sequels, all revolving around the central theme of monster catching. In the game, you take on the role of an adolescent who is mysteriously allowed to leave his home and travel around a wild, dangerous, gangster-ridden world, with no adult supervision or guidance. Geez, were Ash's parents trying to bump him off, or what? The animals you capture and train are called Pokemon, or pocket monsters. because you can imprison them in tiny spherical devices that magically shrink their size. Your ultimate goal in the game is to capture every single Pokemon type in the world, defeat any rival trainers that get in your way, and claim the accolades and rewards of being a Pokemaster.
To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women.
Exactly. This game saw me through quite a few days of illness back in childhood. Pokemon has always been a portable game, that is, it's a series primarily that takes place on the handheld Nintendo Game Boy consoles. Some illnesses are so severe that even getting up out of bed is almost impossible, leaving you drained, miserable, and in pain with very little to distract you from that state of affairs. In comes the Game Boy, a system that can be used under the covers if you want, and without even sitting up if you feel truly awful. You can lift the covers over your head and play while lying comfortably on your side. The Pokemon series is not very challenging and gives a slow, calming pace that's easy for a sick person to accustom themselves to. The music, especially in the original Red and Blue versions, is basic but functional and soothing in the way pleasant chiptune-ish Nintendo songs can be. The game is also quite engaging even for an adult, as the desire to seize every Pokemon imaginable is addictive, and eats up quite a bit of time that would otherwise be spent in the gutter waiting for your medication to kick in. Pokemon is an all-around perfect medicine, gently letting your body heal itself without the agony of illness. And after a while you'll realize that 4, 5, even 8 hours or more has drifted by without your knowledge, and you're that much closer to feeling well again. Who would have thought the perfect companion for being sick is a game about kidnapping tiny animals and making them battle for your amusement? If only humans could climb inside those little Poké-Nurse machines and instantly be restored to health. Oh well. Thank you very much for watching this video. My name is Michael. Please like this video if you liked it, and please subscribe if you want to see more of this content. I've linked 2 of my videos here, one to another top 5 list I did of the top 5 grimdarkest video game settings, and another to a list of videos I did about the Twin Peaks television series. Also, please leave a comment below and tell me what your favorite games are to play while sick, because I'm still sick and I need to know, and every little bit helps. So tell me what you like to play when you're sick, what you think of these games, and have a great day. Feel better.